It's like super general.
Hey guys, my name is Chantel,
My name is Paloma.
and we're gonna do a podcast and talk about work and wealth inequality among races.
Um, Work and wealth inequalities stems from racial inequalities that many minority groups may go through in their lifetime. Many people are met with unequal pay, unequal opportunities, and positions based on their race and are treated unfairly. But people who are white and people that come from more privileged backgrounds, they have it a lot easier when it comes to getting certain job positions, resources, and wages. They may not go through the same difficulties in working back-breaking jobs and difficulties earning enough money to live with the job positions that they have due to their family's wealth and their race.
Okay, so just to now that you say that, I have the perfect example just to touch on that about them not having the proper fundamentals and stuff to get through life. When I did some research, I stumbled across an article where it talked about the city or town of Greenwood. It's in Oklahoma. So basically, it was a very wealthy African American neighborhood in Oklahoma. It was known as the Black Wall Street. In 1921, a guy named Dick Rowland, he was a black shoe shiner. He made a lot of money. He was charged with rape of a white woman. Sorry, you guys. Um, so in retaliation, Rowland was lynched, and the angry white mob went to the town of Greenwood and destroyed 35 blocks, which left 10,000 black people homeless, and killed as many as 300. Yeah, American history is filled with several hindrances that prevented the accumulation of black wealth for centuries. So since that happened, I feel like that had an impact on blacks today, because that could have been anybody family, anybody ancestors. Say for instance, if they didn't do that,
Yeah.
that man would have had a business to pass down to his kids, for something for them to have that was passed down to generations. But being that they did that, he has nothing to give.
It was taken away, basically.
So yeah, that was an example
Um,
of your social construction.
Work and wealth inequalities is one of the effects of the social construct of race. A lot of minority groups are given unequal pay and opportunities, and they may not have to work. They might not have to work even harder for positions and opportunities that are easier for white people or people with privileged upbringings to achieve. Work inequality is when a person doesn't receive the same treatment and opportunities in the workforce and in life in general. Um, in this case, most of the time, race can be a huge factor to that. Work inequality can involve a person.
Did you know that the top three wealthiest races are Indian, Asian, and whites?
Really?
Yeah, black and Latino is not even on there.
Wow.
Man,
For some reason, I thought, maybe.
not even a little bit.
Work inequality can involve a person being treated indifferently just based on their background, race, and gender. An employer may have bias when it comes to choosing who should get a promotion or who they think is best fit for the positions that they have at their company. And it's extremely wrong to do that. It's super unequal.
Well, now that you say that, talking about companies and stuff like that, when I was doing research about our topic, I seen that it says the history that took place many years ago still has an impact on black people's wealth today. In 2017, Fortune 500 CEOs earned 13 million on average. But that only included 300 black people and 11 Latinos.
Damn.
Paloma, out of fucking sorry, sorry. I'm not doing this one over. Paloma, out of 500 people,
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a
three
huge,
blacks and 11
yeah,
Latinos.
that's
Are
a
you
huge
serious?
gap.
A huge gap. So, man,
Um,
what else you got for us?
a lot of privileged people, most specifically white people, may have family members that have passed down wealth and assets. So it has like it passes down from generations to generations, and sometimes like they don't even know like what their family did, you know,
To
like
even get that
receive.
money,
Yeah, so it's
they just got it.
Yeah, so they just come from like a background, and that's how. I mean, that's an example of being privileged.
Yeah,
You
and
might not even know where it came
it keeps going for generations and generations. Like I told you, I got examples, girl. It says the typical black family has 1/10 the wealth of a typical white family.
Yeah.
Like that is so crazy. And then the employment rate runs about twice as high. Like for black people are twice as unemployed as white people. Like
That's crazy. Yeah.
man.
The theoretical perspective for work and wealth inequalities, it comes with a lot of consequences that punishes people for not being able to succeed or meet societal expectations. Again, like I said, mostly just people of color. A lot of people with privilege may say something along the lines of, why don't people work harder, or why not get a better job? But it isn't that easy. And most of the time, like, or all of the time, the people that say that, like,
They already have it.
yeah, they're just so privileged that they don't really see, like, what people have to go through, and, like, all of the obstacles that people have to go through every day just to have, like, some of the smallest things that, like, privileged people have. And they take, like, they don't see it. Like, it's...
They take it for granted,
Yeah.
basically. Okay. So since you say that, I just asked myself a question like, why does the racial wealth gap still continue more than 150 years after emancipation? And like after all this research and talking with you, I just figured like when one system of economic oppression collapses, like new ones were created to fill the void.
That makes sense, yeah.
Like it's like how we were talking about earlier, like after all these slaves were free, they were just free. Like go do whatever you want with your life
Yeah.
now. But yet they didn't have the basic fundamentals like reading and writing and nothing.
Not the same resources.
Yeah, they
So,
didn't have anything
yeah.
to go off of. So how do you expect for them to finish school and
Yeah.
get jobs when they were already set back? Like
It just kind of like goes to show too that like they kind of took in favor more privileged people, white people, over people of color like African Americans and Mexican people and all the, like the other races and stuff.
Yep.
Because like the system kind of like targets them, and it makes them not have like the same opportunities. Like it just like in that case, like they're not given the same resources to actually like succeed and like kind of be like on the same level, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense because that's what I wrote here too. Like, black people weren't given the proper foundation to succeed in life after the emancipation. Like, yeah, they were not slaves anymore, but most of them could not read or write. So without those basic fundamentals, how would they even manage to get a high-paying job to keep up with everyone else? And by everyone else, you know, I mean white people.
Yeah.
Like, so, they didn't have the proper tools to succeed. Black people got a late start in life, basically, because of they were enslaved for so long with with nobody teaching them.
Yeah.
Like I keep saying, the basic fundamentals of life, which is sad because that has a huge impact on how blacks succeed today.
Yeah.
Like you said,
It's not the same opportunities. Like,
Yeah.
it's not the same level too. Like it isn't. You can say that, you know, they're given opportunities, but it's super one-sided because it's not like the same level of
Like,
opportunities.
whites and other races like didn't have the same disadvantages that, you know, black
Yeah.
people had. So I understand where you're coming from there too.
I wrote that wealth and work inequality is a prime example of conflict theory. The conflict theory perspective views people in society in competition with one another. So that goes kind of hand in hand with that. Like, they're in competition with one another, but at the same time, like, one is receiving more resources, more benefits, more opportunities.
One of them
and
get
the
a
other
head
one-
start.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other one is just like, the gun went off like, pum, y'all go, but this one is stuck in molasses or something.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I totally understand that.
Yeah, for sure. So it's like, there can be like a lot of obstacles a person has to go through in order to get a certain job, and like
Or to be on the same
yeah,
level.
they run like the chances of being treated unequally, like always.
Even if they get the job or if
Yeah.
they have the money, they're not equal either way it goes.
Yeah, and
You're right.
The stratification of people in society, meaning the class and group that they are placed in based off of their income and position, results in wealth and work inequality because people are classified based on how much money they make in their
Yep.
occupations. Work and wealth inequality, it plays a huge role in conflict theory because since people are classified based on both their wealth and work occupations, the inequality they endure only benefits people with privilege and power. So
That's
they take that
true.
into advantage that like minority groups like have to work twice as hard to get to that level. Like they
do.
take advantage of that.
They do. And like studies show that, like, like I have another example. For example, like lower income and correspondingly low saving rates prevented black people from wealth, like to the next generation.
Wow.
Like how I tell you how
Yeah.
whites have shit to pass down. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah, all of the assets and stuff.
yes, and black people don't because what do they have to save? Like, So, low income and correspondingly low saving rates prevented blacks from wealth to the next generation as whites in cities and suburbs do. So, unless the current economic changes, like black families will be poorer than they were in 1980 during the emancipation. Like, and that's scary. Like,
Yeah.
how are we going backwards when we're supposed to be prospering,
Yeah.
When they, like, got rid of slavery or whatever, so we could have a chance to, like, have stuff in life. But if you look at it, we still kind of don't have nothing.
It's still like at a disadvantage.
Yep.
Like it's not, you can say that people like they have like the freedom and like the
or
resources,
you know how people
but they
say
really don't. Like
we all have the same 24 hours in one day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we do,
but it's different like lives that we're talking
back
about.
in history and y'all 24 hours, y'all was trying to make it hard for us to come up in the future.
Yeah.
So
I also put that the stratification of minority groups and people with privilege is extremely harmful because it keeps people from succeeding and allows privileged people to hold power and resources over them. So, like, basically, stratification is kind of like it groups people by like a certain class. If that makes sense.
is it like stereotyping or no?
Sort of like they kind of base it off of like things about a person, like their race or how much money they make. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So based on that, like they're placed in a certain category, and it's like I said, like it's sort of like a competition. So it goes like white people will be like in one group.
But you know what's so crazy? It's a competition that like minorities will never win because like I just told you, out of 500 CEOs that made $13 million, 3 were black.